Learn how to manual. Yo! You do not suck at manuals. I can tell you that. It's two things. Either you're not practicing enough or your technique is wrong. Give me a few minutes, watch this video, I can help with the technique. The practice, the hours of pulling the bars up and they just drop down again moments later, you've got to go through that. Everyone does. But hang in there. If you do the practice, I can help with the technique. You will manual. Keep watching. Let's get into it. Go on. Yo, manual the bridge. Just before we start, riders, I should say I have already made a video how to manual your bike 4 days. That was over a year ago and is by far my most successful video in terms of view count. So much like the movies, there's always going to be a sequel. But unlike the movies, this is a sequel that I'm hoping, will be better than the original. I'm a year on. I like to think I've done more manuals. As a content creator, I can improve on a few things. So hang with me. I'm trying to make the sequel better than the original. And the aim is to help everyone out there who wants to manual. If it gives you a head start, helps in any way, this video is for you. So before we go into anything further, we're going to go through the basics. I'm going to go through manual theory. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, riders. Wouldn't a poorly drawn diagram be really helpful? Oh yeah, it's back. As you can see, riders, no expense has been spared for the sequel. This is poorly drawn diagram Mark II. You'll note the exaggerated mullet wheels. Nice touch, I think. First key thing, speed helps, but start chill. The faster you go, the less the bike's going to wobble, the easier it is to balance. If you go really slow, it's going to be all wobbly. But when you're starting out, if you come off the back of speed, it's going to really hurt. Take it easy. You want some speed, but definitely better to learn slow because it'll just give you more control when you get faster. You ideally want a smooth surface, the smoother the better. Slight slope to help you keep your speed once you start getting the balance point. And you'll notice this rather well-drawn rider, pull back with body, not arms. So straight arms is not a case of pulling up in terms of just pulling up with your arms. That's never going to work. You've got to actually pull back with your whole body and see your whole body as a counterweight, get it over the back. Your arms should be straight. There's a pull in your arms, but the pull comes from your whole body coming backwards to get that. So get your sort of rear over the back and pull with all your body, not just your arms. That's if you're just pulling with your arms, you're never going to hold the balance point. And then the key on the balance point, it's this window here. What I never really referred to is when you get into the balance point will feel scary because you're at the point where it could go either way. That's why it's the balance point. So your brain will automatically kind of panic and say, oh, drop the front. And so you've got to almost, this is the whole thing about relax and chill. When you get to the balance point, it feels scary. You've actually got to almost reprogram your brain to say, that's okay, I'm in the balance point. There's actually still more to go before you really need to panic. There's a bit of a point of no return, but it's actually it's further up than you think, if that makes sense. So that when it starts to feel scary, that's okay, you're in the balance point. But if there's almost a bit where you need to panic, and that's where you grab your brake to drop it, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is your poorly drawn diagram version 2. And that's the point of the poorly drawn diagram, just two things for the basics, straight arms, and understand that your brain, when you get to start feeling afraid, that is the balance point, but don't panic, chill, basically. But if a poorly drawn diagram is enough, this is a sequel, there's a bigger budget, so now for a live action diagram. Oh yeah, got you covered, either way you look at it. Just, yeah, so much manual goodness. Okay, great. That's the theory, and I'm not promising that's revolutionary, but the point before you start putting hours and hours of practice in, if you understand the theory, your practice should be more fruitful. So no longer just bent arms, pulling the bars into the chest. You know that's not going to work. Straight arms, get that body weight behind it. But anyway, you got the hours of practice, but before you start practicing, and now you know the theory, just find a nice wide, long surface, no cars, big car park, something like that, because you're going to, even when you get the balance point, you're not necessarily going to go straight, you're going to wobble left to right, and it comes with practice to keep in a straight line or control it. That's the more advanced techniques we'll move on to. But also if you've got a full suspension, make sure your rear shock is fully open because you want it to sit in the sag. I find that helps. If you've got a hardtail, you don't care, you're a pure rider anyway. And then that's it. You just got to put in the hours and hours and hours of practice. And now we can move on to the advanced techniques. But before we do, I just want to talk about one thing I didn't actually mention in my other video, which I think is quite important. I actually manual brakeless, and it's not to say I don't cover the rear brake, but I'm not using it during a manual. It's only my exit strategy. Just quickly, I'll go through that. Just for the avoidance of doubt, riders, quick POV practical demonstration showing no brakes are used during a manual. And yes, I've had my hair cut during filming. This is called a continuity error, and the best sequels can't make them without them. Just saying. Dick. So I would normally cover my brakes, why wouldn't you? But just to make the point, check the hands. Oh, on. No finger, see, 3. You actually pick up speed. Oh, didn't allow for that bump. Yo. The reason I think it's really important to mention I'm manual brakeless is I didn't mention it in my first video at all, but it's only because that's just how I do it. But you can manual where you use the back brake to kind of create a bit of sort of to control, so you're constantly pulling up with your arms and the back brake's kind of balancing. But the only thing with that technique, not that I know, but there must be some drag. So in terms of even on slopes, you're going to kind of constantly be kind of, killing your speed. So the way I learn brakeless, just, so all my tips refer to a brakeless manual. I've got the brake covered. So, if my front wheel's getting too high and I'm getting scared, then that's my exit. That's my panic. Sort of slam pull the lever, slam the front down, but it's covered. I'm never using it during a manual. And I guess it's just the way I do it. But if you want to get distance out of your manuals, that is the only way. It has to be brakeless, just using your body weight just to control it. Because actually, if you get on a slope and you're brakeless manual, you'll pick up speed because you've got less rolling resistance than two wheels, so you can get some serious speed up. But yeah, I'm just putting that in there. It's not to say you have to do it that way, but that is the method if you want a manual for days. Anyway, so you know the basics, you've got to put the practice in, you know that if you can, a brakeless manual will give you the distance. That's all great. The next thing to go through is more advanced manual techniques, and also why manual, what makes them cool. Although you probably know that, because if you've made it this far through the video, you want a manual. So anyway, advanced techniques, let's go through it. Guess the key thing from my perspective on more advanced techniques, it just takes even more practice. And you'll notice you don't generally see manuals in sort of competitions as such, because they're just, I guess, that bit, even for the pros, they're that bit unpredictable. I rarely see manual-based tricks in comps from mountain bike riders, slope style. Thomas Lemoyne, actually. But anyway, the point is, it just takes even more practice. But my technique in terms of my advice for advanced manuals is you've got to get the basics down, obviously, and then it's all about having confidence and knowing that you can do it. But I think also accepting that it could take 20 goes, it could take 50 goes, it could take 100 goes, and even then you might not necessarily be able to do it consistently. That's what I find. But again, it's just more practice, which isn't that enlightening, I'm sorry to say, but it doesn't mean it isn't true. So more practice, and believe you can do it, and don't give up. Keep trying, it will happen. That's what I'm starting to find. I'll take that. Just before I end the video, and thanks for watching, getting up to this point with me, obviously the YU manual, I mean, it's easy to say manuals are cool, and they do look cool when you pop a manual and, you know, you could just chill going down. I personally prefer manuals to wheelies, A, because I'm better at them, but not just that, they're more chill. You don't have the effort, you're just cruising. I love that feeling, basically. But yeah, just for me, as a personal preference as a rider. But I think the reason practicing and understanding manuals is important if you want to progress your riding, I'm not saying this is official, but I think understanding that, you know, there's a bit of no return in terms of, I think it actually helps with jumping if you can manual well, because you can stabilize and balance a bike, not in the air, maybe it's on the ground, but think when you get your front wheel up and go off a jump, you're actually kind of in a manual position, and it's understanding not to go too back with the bars, or obviously if you go too low, it's going to drop. And I don't know, the more I've progressed my manuals, I think it might help in a way with jumping and balancing the bike in the air, and, you know, obviously not ever getting the bars too high so you're going off the back, which nobody wants to do in a jump, right? Anyway, just aside, I think that's another reason to master manuals, because I think if you're struggling with jumping, you might find, without realizing it, you'll get better, or, you know, more relaxed and more confident and stable in the air, hopefully. It's just a theory. And one more thing just to stress, I don't think I mentioned it before we end the video, practice. That's the bit that's down to you. And, you know, I know it doesn't look so, it looks like you're not very good on your bike when you try and pull a manual and it just drops all the time, but you got to get past that, because you'll hold it. It's the practice. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I know I made a bold claim that the sequels can be better than the original. Obviously that's up to you as riders and viewers, so do let me know in the comments any thoughts. And like the last video, if this helps anybody get their manuals down or enjoy riding a bit more, then absolutely worth it. Thank you for watching How to Manual Part 2. There probably won't be a third. Yeah, definitely won't be a third. You know,